Hello, ladies. We are here. We made it. We made it.
Yes, yes.
Welcome to Arise and Shine Stories of Triumph. We are so excited that you've joined us today. We ask you to share, because this author's perspective is going to be amazing. I've had the honor and privilege of working with some extraordinary women over the past few months, putting this project together with our leader, our illustrious leader, Dr. Cheryl Wood. And so we're going to sit around and we're going to chat this afternoon about the power and the courage to launch. Right, ladies?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, Benicia. I'm handing the mic to you. How are you today? Oh, we can't hear you. Your voice isn't coming through. We see your beautiful lips moving, but we are going to, I'll hand the mic to you later. I'm going to steal it right back, okay?
Okay.
Oh, there you are. There you are. You're with us now.
Can you hear me now?
We sure can.
Can you hear me?
We sure
Can you
can.
hear me?
Take it away.
Okay, awesome. Well, we are so excited for having these amazing ladies on today. I know for a fact you're going to be inspired and uplifted and encouraged, because as I read the stories of these phenomenal ladies, I sure was. And so I'm excited to take time to spend with each one of them so they can give you a little snippet, just a little bit of their amazing journey. And so we are going to start. I guess we will go with Stacy. So welcome, Stacy. Can you hear us, Stacy?
Hi, everyone.
Hey, there you are. How are you?
I'm doing well this morning. Thanks for having me.
So tell us about
my name is Stacy McClam, and I'm about my what?
About your fabulous story.
Oh, my chapter, yes. So the chapter is called School Dismissed, Teacher to Filmmaker. And in the chapter, I'm discussing how I was courageous in that I left my teaching profession of 10 years and decided to become a filmmaker. So the reason why is because after teaching for 10 years across the US and also abroad in Japan and Kuwait, in the US, I noticed that there were many issues in the education system, and it wasn't like the teachers that were an issue or the kids or administrators. Even with good administration and teachers, it was issues outside of their control, systemic issues, and it really bothered me. And I was unhappy for years, and I couldn't wrap my head around, okay, I wanted to become a teacher for a reason, but then now that I've been in this position, I'm not happy, and it didn't make sense to me, and I struggled with it for a very long time. And I had my own thoughts, and I thought some things needed to be exposed and explored. And so I got frustrated I was frustrated, but I had an incident that just took me over the edge, and I said, I'm done. And so in 2018, I resigned from the teaching profession, and now I'm making films.
That I read in your story, what kind of blew me away is, it's funny how God prepares us. He kind of gives us little hints and clues along the way, and they turn out to be breadcrumbs. But what jumped out to me, without sharing everything, but that you had the forethought to go get a coach to help you develop some things that you had on your heart. You're specifically some screenwriting you wanted to do, right?
Yes.
To build a business behind that. But for you to say, I just don't need a coach and an LLC for that. You know what? I just want to go all out. I don't just want to do one film. I want to do a film company. I want to build a huge company that what we focus on is making films. That's huge. That's brave. Where did that come from?
Tired of being depressed and unfulfilled. I was 38 at the time. And so I was just like, I'm not where I want to be. This is not what I imagined for my life. Something needs to change. I need to do better. I took responsibility, and it has not been an easy journey. I'm still in the journey and will continuously be learning and growing. It takes time to build a business, especially a film production company, because until the film is made, you're not seeing any benefits, and you may not see any benefits even after it's made. But, I have a teaching background. I also went to law school. None of those have to do with the entertainment industry. So I know I'm learning, and I'm open, and I'm putting people around me, a team that is knowledgeable in this area. And so I'm being a student and getting my voice heard and trying to expose some of the education issues that we see across this country. There's a lot of foolishness going on in schools, and it's not okay at all.
That right there takes me to my next question for you, because you're very passionate about what's going on. That's driving. It's ironic that it drove you away, but it drove you away to do something about it, to shine a light on it, to be proactive and not walk away. Right. And you have a documentary that you're working on. I've heard you talk about, you get all excited, and I want you to share that with us. What's in the shoot right now? What creative projects do you have that you're excited about?
Yeah, so the first one is the documentary. It's called Robbed, A Mother's Peril, the Kelly Williams Bolar story. So Kelly Williams Bolar is an Ohio mom. And in 2011, she made headlines because she used her parents' address to enroll her daughters into their school district. And so she was jailed. And the media portrayed things in a certain way. The decision was made by the law. And so I wanted to hear what Kelly had to say. There's always many different perspectives, many different opinions, many different stories. And I wanted to present it in a way where it would be objective, but let people make their own decisions. And I didn't think the story should have been forgotten, even though it was in 2011. School residency issues and many of the issues that surround this case and story are still in existence today. COVID has exposed many of the issues in the education system. And so, so last weekend, we actually filmed the opening credits of the documentary, and a dance teacher from my old school named Tashara Gavin Moorhead performed a sequence. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to see a documentary that I want to see, and I want to see a dancer in a classroom and at the beginning of my documentary. So that's what we did. And then we also filmed a pitch video because we will have to do some crowdfunding in the future. So we're really excited. And then in the future, I would like to do more films, narrative feature films about education related issues.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And people need to see the positive and also combat the foolishness, like you said, that's going on. And what better way to get on top of something than to rise up above it and not sit in the midst of the mediocrity, but to work towards a positive change. So kudos to you. I can't wait to see everything that you work on. I'll make sure that the Then I Rise family is aware of what you're doing too. Ladies, Dr. Wood brought us all together, but she would probably take her hat off to say, and she did, she said it was divinely orchestrated, how we were all strung together, because a lot of us, we're so different, and at the same time, we're so alike, And I want to go to you, Shamika. I want to ask you, what intrigued you about the project? Why did you sign on? And tell us a little bit about yourself without giving too much of your chapter away.
Okay, we'll do. Well, so again, I'm Shamika Dokes Brown, the owner of Lena Mae's Bath and Beauty Boutique.
All right.
What made me actually say yes to the project was the fact that in the season that I had just transitioned out of, um, which is again a season of the unknown. It was almost like I've been sitting on my story for so long. And thank God for COVID. I'm saying thank God for COVID because without COVID coming, I would not have had the time to zoom in
Mhm.
or even to tune in the way that I had been with Dr. Woods and the things that she had going. And
Yes.
initially, like I'm human, so I struggled for a moment as she had actually proposed a project, and I was like, wait a minute, well, you know how the enemy try and get us and say, well, don't nobody want to know about your mama, don't nobody want to know about how you started your business, don't nobody needs it, that like it's irrelevant, let it go, and other people have done it and they've done it better, and that's that just that small
Mhm.
voice in the inside of the Lord just reassuring, yeah, they may have done it, but I gave you this. So you walk out on this and you share and you open your mouth and you share what's in your heart. So that's why I said yes to the project. That's why I said yes to the project. And I will also say the title of my chapter is The Tears That Watered the Soil. And
I love that title.
and that was birthed in my backyard, okay?
I
So
love it.
ever since COVID has happened and being basically home, working, I work remotely now. He's been just showing me through gardening. It's really, I'm like, gardening, really? Really gardening? But it's always been a part of my heart. But just those small things of how patience work perfect. And when we trust him, not only will he open up doors, but he'll begin to birth things that we know, just that, like you said, just little tidbits, right? But you go, how does that tree become so big? It all started with a seed, and it's up to us to allow that
Oh,
seed
yeah.
to take root. So that's that's how it all came together. So that's why I'm like, it's just so amazing too how we were all interweaving together. So yeah. Mm.
That's powerful. I mean, I can relate to you with the gardening piece. I can't really explain it. There are two, I guess they're elements that always seem to bring me peace, and that's water
Mm.
and my hands in the dirt. I don't know
Mm.
what that's about, but when I'm planting, when I lived in Maryland, I had 100 and I think it was 108 or 96, some weird version of 12 number of bulbs that were delivered every October, right around this time. And so I miss that because I don't plant like that here. That I moved south. It's ironic, but I don't do that anymore. But it's like you become one with him when you're playing in the dirt and you can
Mhm.
hear him better. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I
Mhm.
totally get it. I totally relate to you being able to connect to him that way, and he
Mhm.
can speak to you that way. It's just quiet and peaceful. Hey, Benicia.
Hey.
Now, I know we've been sharing, and you probably heard a little bit of Shamika and what she had shared. I wanted to find out if you had anything you wanted to ask.
Of course, not only add, but add as well. One thing I love about your story is you were able to incorporate your mother's memory.
Mhm.
So, tell us a little bit about what what I love is what the enemy meant for bad. God
Mhm.
always turns around for our good. And you talk, a lot about those tears that you sowed and how
Mhm.
out of that God was really birthing something. I love that pain often births passion and purpose. So
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about your logo and how you were able to honor your mom even in creating that.
All right. So my mom had this favorite picture of herself that she had on our refrigerator when we were coming up. And so after she transitioned on to daddy, um, it was like if you read the chapter, you'll see like there was different levels, but in different also periods where I would utilize soap making and things of that sort as a way of just releasing everything that I was carrying. And so I think for me in my heart, she was so important to me, and knowing that that giant that I was going up against, how they didn't even remember her name. And what I wanted is because my mom was actually a teacher, so that's also ironic for over 34 years. I wanted not only her legacy to just be powerful and her name to be remembered. I wanted people to know whenever they pick up a product of ours that this is Lena May. So I took her favorite picture and had it created into a silhouette. And then I also took a driver's license, the signature from her driver's license to combine it. And so I, I'm just like, I feel like the Lord has allowed me to continue to do the things that I know she would have loved to do.
Yeah.
And it's like, although that big giant, the people at those tables, those boardroom tables who did not remember or know her name, I put it in there. My mom has traveled the whole world. So I
Come on.
have several sisters that are missionaries. And one thing that my mom was a giver. So you already know that seed has already been planted. And because of who our Heavenly Father is, He's a giver. He gives love. He gives it freely. So we do the same exact thing. And I'm just like, my mama has been to Africa. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Great.
people, like when you see the pictures, there's a few pictures on our Instagram from Liberia. One of my besties went to Liberia and we sent soap. And when she sent me the pictures from Liberia, I was literally standing in the bank and I started weeping in the bank. And I was like, these people gonna think something wrong with me. And I'm like, no, my
Yeah.
mama made it to Liberia. So it's just allowing daddy to get the glory out of my life. And also as we're lifting him up, allowing people also to be more aware of just medical negligence and how to take ownership of your own health care. Don't just trust in man and woman. Ask the question. Ask, and don't feel like, oh, this person is the specialist, because we are the specialists of our own self. They have the knowledge, but daddy give them the wisdom. So trusting that the Lord will give us the wisdom to say what we need to say, to advocate for what we need in a medical setting, so on and so forth.
Such a beautiful, yeah, such a beautiful honor for your mother's sake. What I thought was so powerful in your story was what you said about at the hospital. Her name might have not been significant to you, but because I know when her name, everything is significant to him. Her name gets to be said all across the world. How powerful is that? And I also love that you said in your chapter that God is the CEO of your business.
Oh, yeah.
And how can you not have a prosperous business when you allow God to be the center of everything that you do? And so your story was just amazing. We shared earlier that my mom passed, and I was there during her transition. And one thing that I believe not only we have in common with this situation, but I'm sure if all of us look around in our life, that worship will save your life.
Yes.
So through worship, in your pain, when you may not have the words to say, but what I love about worship, while we're worshiping, there's an exchange that is happening. So in your pain, while you were in the kitchen or thinking about your mom and you were worshiping, really that exchange was happening. So you were giving him glory in the midst of your pain, and he was giving you what he tells us in the word is that he gives us ideals, witty inventions. So that's what I love, is that we have to learn how to worship in the midst, knowing that our worship is not in vain, and everybody worships different. Some people it's going to be tears. Some people, their hands may be lifted. They may speak in their heavenly language, whatever the case may be. What God wants is authentic and true worship. And through that, he's transformed your life, my life, all of these women's lives. So amazing. Absolutely.
Yeah, really, really amazing. And what you said is so key, Benicia, because he reaches everyone in a way. Everybody's different. You don't worship like the lady next to you. And I carried that because I transitioned from the Catholic faith. So we did things very different. I mean, I went to pre-K and middle school, everything was Catholic school. And then I went from Catholic school to AME, and with a little splash of Pentecostal, and then and then I'm at Elevation. So I've been through all of them, but in the beginning was very hard because I'm my thing, and to this day still, I move inwardly, and there are tears flowing, and I may get worked up, but it doesn't come out the way other people. And it used to bug me. So I used to pray, God, why can't I worship like she's worshiping? And it seems like it's so much more flamboyant, and that you probably appreciate it more. And the answer that I kept getting back, that I chose to put to the side, that finally I was like, you need to be obedient in all things, is what I heard in my spirit was, you worship the way that you worship because I made you that way.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be like the lady on the pew 3 and 4 rows across or behind you. You need to come to me authentically you. And that's the way I want you, because that's the way I made you. So it's so powerful that you said that, because what Dr. Cheryl says is we're all so different, but we're all the same at the same time. We love the same daddy, but we may come to him in different ways, and he may drop us different. He may drop our assignment in our spirit in different ways, and in that we can receive it. So for him to say to Stacy, I need you to make a move, and I need you to do it in steps, because you're an accomplished professional. I don't need you to go off like a crazy woman. I need you to do it this way. Right? So he gave you a process, and what might have seemed scandalous to some was a plan to you, right? Because you were planning in the background for your escape from the education system, right? It wasn't a crazy, oh, she didn't come back to work the next day kind of thing. It was thought out, and he gave you that. And he helped you, Shamika, with the process of letting go of your mother, and how you can praise and glorify her by putting together this project and turning it into an homage unto her memory, right? So, Lady Carol, tell me, because your title, let me read your title, and then I want to come back to Stacy, because Stacy has some tips, and I want her to give y'all one of them, because you need to go get the book for the rest of them. But Carol's title is Scaling Up from Marketing Manager to Mother of the Year. I didn't want to miss one word of that, because I was a marketing manager, and I don't have a marketing, Woman of the Year, Mother of the Year crown. What was he saying to you? Talk to us about your chapter.
Well, thank you. So my chapter does indeed begin with my transition from a marketing manager to becoming a mother of newborn twins. And then, because of the needs that one of my children had, some developmental challenges, becoming a long-term stay-at-home mom, which I had never, ever planned to do. In fact, I had said in my younger years, oh, I would never be a stay-at-home mom. Not putting it down, but just feeling that that was not what I could do. And so over the course of caring for my son, I just learned so much more about how children develop, what they need from parents. And so somewhere along the way, God spoke to me in a dream and told me, you're going to be teaching people, you're going to teach other parents what you're learning. And I'm like, I've only been here 2 years. I could not imagine how I would be standing up telling other people about their journey. But that's what he said. He told me to just prepare him for kindergarten, prepare both of them for kindergarten, and then move into the plan. And I have to tell you, it did take me 5 years to be obedient. I was a little bit, a little bit hesitant to step up. I just couldn't imagine, couldn't picture, but he laid it all out. And so, and I did start the company in, 2009. I started my own company with a partner. And in 2014, I started the Parenting 411 show. And like in 2018, my sons graduated from high school. So I was really in a place of reflection, like looking back on how far I had come. And so that following year, I was named Mother of the Year. It was just all kind of coming up to this point, like all of the experiences that I had, all of the worries and setbacks, naysayers, and all of that. And I felt like God was validating my journey, not saying I'm the best mother in DC because I was the DC Mother of the Year, but he was just saying, well done. And then I also felt that it was a way of honoring my mother who had poured so much into me. And she was a tremendous help to me during this journey. And for a good part of 2018 and moving into 2019, she was ill. And so by the time the convention rolled around, the National Convention of American Mothers Incorporated, she was well enough to be present. She attended the gala with me. And so it was just such a blessing. And so that's what I talk about in my story, what I was doing in that time. Because even though I didn't launch the business exactly when God told me to, there were 5 key things that I was doing that were really the building blocks for the Parenting 411.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. But, I'm sorry, Benicia, you were getting ready to say something. Go for it.
Well, I was just going to say, your story is so amazing. I love how you say in the book that you went from being overwhelmed to overjoyed. And I don't think I could have put that any better with having children. And I couldn't even imagine twins because, I have children and I felt overwhelmed, eventually overjoyed, but I didn't have a Parenting 411, radio station to plug into or your business. And I think sometimes we don't even recognize the investments that we need to make just because we are giving a role or a title. So you might think, I'm a parent, and I'm just going to figure it out, not realizing that there is help out there to, give you guidance and maybe to really stop some of those generational things that we didn't even know were because we were taught. And so I think what we're doing is essential to not only communities, but really society, because we're in a place where we need to learn how to help. I think you alluded to this in your chapter that because you basically found out who your call was, it made it even more impactful for your children. And so now your children are going to have the opportunity to pass that on to their children. So really what you're doing is not just a quick fix. It's really a generational blessing, a legacy that you're leaving not only for your family, but you're going to help other individuals leave those types of healthy legacies as well. One thing that you talked about that I would like you just to touch on, if you could, is creating a parenting philosophy. Who knew that there was even a philosophy to parenting? So if you don't mind, can you just touch on that? As well as you also said parenting is a ministry. And that just kind of hit me like, wow. It really is. So can you just speak to how the Lord really revealed that to you?
Absolutely. I will start with that second question first about parenting being a ministry. During the time when my children were about 2 years old, 2 to 3, I had started taking parenting classes myself because I was really determined to parent them as individuals.
Okay.
And, because I've heard stories about twins feeling like their parents treated them as one. So I wanted to do that. And then also because we had learned about our son's difficulties, I wanted to parent him in the unique way that he needed to be parented, but at the same time, demonstrate that I had full faith that he was going to be all that God had intended him to be. So I started taking the classes, and as I was going through it was positive discipline, and I was seeing the parallels between my relationship with God. Like, you know, when I would look at them sometimes and say, didn't I tell him not to do that or not to go there? I pictured God saying, didn't I tell her not to do that or not to associate with that person? And I was like, I suddenly could imagine how he has felt over the years when maybe I haven't been exactly obedient. And so that's when I realized that my role with my children was a ministry, and I was to really teach and guide them and be loving and kind with them the way God is with me, and allow them to experience consequences the way he has allowed me to experience consequences. So that's when that really hit me. And then for your other question, which you need to remind me of.
Yeah, sure. The parental or parenting philosophy.
Yes. So that really speaks to parenting with vision, because I find that sometimes with parents, especially with small children, they're just trying to get through the day. And, you know, chasing kids around and making sure they do what they say and all of that. And we're not really thinking about the lessons that we're imparting to them, what we really want them to know how to do. We want them to be critical thinkers so that when they're not with us, suppose they are at an aunt's house or something, or at a friend's house for a play date, you want them to know that you have a certain you have certain boundaries, or you have certain ways that you want them to conduct themselves. And so in order to plant those seeds, you have to have some vision. You have to have a plan for how you're going to communicate that to them, and you must be consistent. And so when you have a philosophy, when you kind of know what you believe about parenting, what you think is important for your children to know or to do, and start working toward that, then I think that you don't get as frustrated and all, you know, because they're going to throw all kinds of things at you, behaviors and all of that, because they just got here and they're just trying to figure it out too. It's up to us to have a game plan in our mind to guide them where they need to go, using the temperament and the gifts that they come here with, because we know they have gifts when they come here. It's up to us to bring them out, but to march them forward in a way that their gifts will serve them.
That's so good. So good. Really good. Very powerful.
It is. And Stacy, speaking of gifts and things to leave, I want you to share, because you're so gracious in your chapter. And when I think about, you know, all of us, I have nieces, I don't have daughters, but when you tell them to do all the right things, you know, get an education and graduate and go get a good career, and you did all that stuff. And the system let you down. But instead of rolling around in that mud, you stood up and you're doing something about it, right? And you share, I believe it's 5. Yes, it's 5 tips, things that can help you with the fear of launching. And I don't want you to share more than one because they're juicy, as our coach said. So pick your favorite one that, you know, is part of your core that made you fight back and say, you know, I'm going to do it my way and I'm going to do it different.
Sure. So it is to be scared. And you all listening, I'm sure, have heard this before in some way or another, to be fearful, to do it anyway. But I just think we all have a purpose here. And so all of us have something that bothers us, or, you know, makes us think twice. And you think, does she think like this too? Does she see this? Does he understand what I'm saying? Does my mom see this? And they probably don't, because you're unique. And so you have to be scared to do something that other people are not doing, because you're you. And so I think it helps to know that you are going to be scared and accept that. So if that means setting a deadline for when you need to have your script written, or to say you're going to take an international flight, or whatever you're going to do for the first time, is going to be scary. And that's okay, because if you don't take that next level, you're going to stay at the same level. But you have to take the next level and be scared, and then take the next level and be scared. Otherwise, you stay at the same place. So if you want to live fully, then you're going to have to step out and be scared and courageous.
That's powerful.
That is.
I know I did that a few times already. I think I had a few more left in me. You know, you have to, because if you wait for those butterflies or sometimes rocks in your stomach to dissipate, you'll never get anything done. You won't move out on anything. And I'm not ashamed to say I am 54 and I am determined to make sure the next 54 are amazing. So I don't have time to sit around and wait for myself to calm down and do it right. I'm just gonna do it. So I love that. Do it scared. Yes, that's awesome. Yes, Nicole, do it scared and keep it moving. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's one of our co-authors.
So, Stacey, I wanted to talk about a couple of things that you said that was so good in your chapter. And I'm telling you, I was like eavesdropping chapters. The whole book is amazing. If you haven't purchased it, I encourage you to go get the book. It is full of stories that will just encourage you to do it scared. Exactly what Stacey and all of the ladies on the platform today had to do in order to be where they are. You mentioned this term, and I was like, wait a minute, I have never heard that before. And it was called teacher trauma. Wow. And I thought that was so powerful, because we really don't talk about traumas. And sometimes we don't even understand that we've really been through a trauma, like, oh, okay, I've been through that. I weathered it, I got over it. But trauma is something that has to be dealt with. And I think it's so key to speak about that, because we're in a season where I'm sure a lot of parents, they probably are understanding teacher trauma on another level, because now they're home with their own kids all day, trying to navigate, life and work. And I definitely have a respect for teachers. I always have, but even more so now, just knowing and seeing the nuances that they have to go through. And so can you talk a little bit about teacher trauma and what that looks like and how you experience that? I'm sure that parallel with what you're doing now, the choices that you made. But I just thought that was so powerful that we needed to hear that today.
Yeah, so teacher trauma is something that people don't think about. It's oftentimes overlooked. And it's basically secondary traumatic stress. And it can take the form of, in many different ways. There's, a lot of research on this, vicarious trauma. Social workers experience it, nurses, a lot of people in the helping professions. But for me personally, it was brought about because you want to be successful in the classroom. You actually want your children to learn. And that isn't always the case with the system. It's not designed oftentimes for kids to be successful. And so it's like you're fighting yourself because you're not heard. And again, it's not necessarily from an administrator or district. It's just a policy, the way it is. Nobody listens to the teachers, but we're in the classroom working with your children. We know what kids need. And when we can't be successful, when the school climate is negative, it's just very disheartening. And some teachers feel powerless. They feel helpless. They do not take the self-care that they need, and it can lead to mental health issues. I was diagnosed after I left the teaching profession with PTSD. I know others who have had mental health issues, and it's all because like we're not being heard. We want to help, but we can't. So we're like stuck fighting ourselves.
Mm-hmm. That's so powerful because again, like you said, we just didn't think of it. But as you broke it down, it makes total sense when you have such a passion to want to help. You see the need, but you're being stifled or you're being silenced, whatever the case may be. But what I love about your story is that you didn't stop there. So where trauma may have taken place, where there was a wound, you decided that I'm going to take all of this that I've been through and I'm going to launch out and I'm going to bring truth to expose the realities of what is really going on. So I believe, one thing that God is speaking to all of us is it's not just what you go through, it's what you do with what you go through, so
that's
lay down,
don't
right.
Don't stay in the water.
Listen, it's what you do with it. So we can lay down and we can be victims. And I'm not saying that, sometimes you have to go through that season in order for him to speak and say, hey, you got to get up. Hey, there's a purpose and there's a plan. There's kids waiting on you. There's parents waiting on you. There's parents waiting on you. There's people who don't understand self-care. I know I didn't for years. You just like navigating, you just getting it done. You don't know how to take a moment until you have a Shamika come and say, hey, you don't have to use Dove. This soap is made with love and some anointing, So I love that he takes, if we allow him to, the things that we go through to really shift people's life, to shift the kingdom, to shift, corporate, all of those things. One other thing that you said that I loved is that you said while you were in the midst of this transition, you felt unworthy, which I think many of us have in one season or another, even when God, like you said, is calling us out. But the one thing you said is that I finally was able to say yes for myself, to myself. Can you talk about that yes for a moment? Because I'm sure there's people out there, including myself, who've been in that space of being unworthy. We say yes to everything else, what everybody else wants us to do. Instead of what really are you calling me to do? So talk about that yes and how powerful that was for you.
It was and I think you learn this in school. You may learn this with your family, especially as Black people. My parents, my grandparents went through Jim Crow, and so their version is to get a good job, as we talked about earlier. There's a path, go to college, get a good job, get a 401k, and that's fine, and it is necessary. And it's some people that is their path. But for me personally, that doesn't work if the job is not working for me. So it's just like I felt out of all those years, I'm like, not that I wasted money on law school, because I won't say that. My mom says no education is a waste, but that's a lot of debt I have. College, master's degree, and I'm just like, okay, like now I'm leaving it all. Like this is what I wanted to do, education, and I just felt like, unworthy, kind of like a loser. Like I don't have anything to show, and I had to change that around, as you stated, Benicia, that no, you have to have your purpose, and what you went through was for a purpose. It may not seem like it to you, but you have to take your knowledge and bring it together and do what you're supposed to do with it. And it's difficult. It is difficult to pick yourself up and not, because you worry about what other people think. Oh, well, how's she gonna leave a job? Like, you want to look a certain way, I guess, but I don't have time for that anymore. Like I gotta take care.
That's it. Yes, I so relate to what you just said, and I want to get Carol and Shamika's take on it too. I want to share. For me, saying yes, and I had mentioned this to you guys earlier, just saying yes to joining us today, that yes means so much. And that one word is such a struggle for me. It was a struggle for me to get to the place where I said yes to myself and I said yes to God. You know, and it's almost like I had to do it in that order in my mind for him to hear me, because he created me. So if I didn't say yes to myself, I was saying no to him. So I had to get to a place to understand that. And once I said yes, then, there's such a feeling of freedom, this weight that's lifted off of you. And I don't know, that it's hard to put words to it. You want to go and you want to do, because now you're free to do it. And it was just that word, but there's so much power in it, How do you feel about your yes, Shamika? How do you, and then Carol, talk about your yes to yourself. And
so my yes was actually a yes to you, yes to God, and no to others. So as you mentioned, there's so many people that put labels on us, and we
yes,
unintentionally try and live up to the labels that they put. You're the oldest, you're the strongest, you do this.
girl.
No, your life should be this way. This is how you do it. No, it shouldn't be that. And a lot of times it's not even said. It's just from what we have been around. So it's like, yeah, God, you use me how you want
Yes.
to use me. I will not allow anybody to put me in a box because, as Stacey said too, I'm not happy. And because
Mhm.
I'm not happy, there means we got to recalculate route, and also allowing him to be our navigation system and not
Yeah.
others, not our feelings, not our emotions. And I love it. Do it in fear and give him the fear. Allow him to take it, shape it, and mold it for not
Yeah.
only fuel, but also as keys, because those are the keys that open the door. And also knowing
Mhm.
that although we are all created different, we are all human and we all belong to him. And so he'll do a thing in us that ain't gonna make sense. And making soap, oh my God, so funny. And that's why I'm like, yes, Lord. And now I can say, yes, yes, Lord. But when you talk to people and you hear some of the things like, oh, you can't make soap. Oh my God. Like, no. And I'm like, if you only knew the majority of it, not even majority, those big brand soaps in the stores, those are detergents. It ain't even soap, darling. So it just like stepping back,
Wow.
saying yes, holding it up, and also just allowing him to do his thing and being glorified in all that we do. Just like,
Yeah.
okay, here we go. And I'm moving this way and I'm moving that way. And it doesn't matter. And I'm not going to apologize for my uniqueness. He made me this way.
Yes.
And I'm going to keep moving. I'll keep smiling. I'll keep bumping my head too if I do not listen to him, because my yes may have been limited in some areas. And he's like, but I told you, do it this way.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, to God
That's
be
so
the
good.
glory.
That's so good.
Yes.
Go. Yeah.
Absolutely. It can be a challenge to say yes. As she was going through that, I was thinking about when I first made that decision a year after my boys were born, that yes, I'm going to stay home. I turned in my resignation. I was not going back to the job. And a lot of people didn't understand it. I mean, I had gone to one of the top business schools in the country, and I was prepared for a certain kind of a career. People expected to see a certain kind of career from me. But God told me, just to lean into this situation, get to know your kids, love your kids, treasure this moment. And so, I let go of previous expectations, and I did that. And I just feel like along the way, he just rewarded me. We got into this pattern, like, I love sleep. And as you can imagine, with twins, I was very serious about getting my sleep. And so, but during the day, I was so busy doing this, doing that. And so I think that God kind of decided, oh, I know how to get to her. Let me mess with that sleep. And so he would come to me a lot of nights when I was kind of going a little too far in one direction or the other. That's when he gave me some really powerful messages about what I should do next. And I just was so thankful for that, because it would often be at just the right time, just the moment that I needed some encouragement, some verification that I was on the right path. And so that was sort of a pattern with us. And then I just, progressively kept saying yes to more things. I mean, starting the company, then the radio opportunity. And really, it was even a yes for me to even be considered for Mother of the Year, because, I wasn't feeling like Mother of the Year material at that moment. And then I believe it might have been Shamika who mentioned about COVID and the quarantine. The downtime at home really turned out to be a blessing for me. I was home by myself because my children were in college and my husband was traveling, and he decided to go where they were and stay with them and let them finish out the semester. So I was by myself, and it gave me an opportunity to start writing my book again. There was another book that I have coming out, and I started writing that. And then Dr. Cheryl came up with this opportunity, and I was like, well, I have already written that part in my own book, so I could certainly repackage it for Courageous Enough to Launch. And I was honest with her about that, and she said, oh, yes, absolutely, you can do that. So that was a blessing. I went from the goal of becoming an author in 2020 to becoming a 2-time author in 2020. So
awesome.
Yeah, and it's all because I said yes to myself about finishing my first book, that I was prepared for this book.
That's great. Can't wait for that to come out.
Yes.
Come back and talk with the Benicia and I about it when it comes out.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. The power of yes, as you ladies were speaking, I was just thinking, when we say yes to God, then we no longer have to say no to destiny, so destiny is waiting over here, God is hovering, over here. And then here's all these people. And in order, if I haven't found anything out in life, in order to really become who God has called you to be, you're going to have to say no's. You're going to have to set boundaries, and you're going to have to be clear and really trusting that God knows better than we do, than people do, the expectations that people have. I think as you grow, and this is a process, right? But as you grow and you mature in your relationship with God, the ultimate goal at the end of the day is to please Him. Because think about it, this life is fleeting. All of us are going to have to stand before Him. And He's not going to ask us what nobody else thought about our journey but us. Nobody. He's not going to ask me what my mother thought, my husband, my friend, my cousin. When I stand before Him, it's going to be me and Him, you and Him. And so as we align ourselves, and His way is the best way. We're human, so we're flawed. We do make mistakes. But again, as we learn to love Him, look at the beautiful stories that have come out of your obedience. And I just feel led to say this, that we have to remember that nothing is wasted. So, Stacey, I want to say to you, even with your degree, it's so funny how God works, because really you are kind of operating like a lawyer in a different space, because you're still defending what you believe. You're still, you know what I mean? So you may not be in the courtroom, but you really are. Life gives us clues. You're still in operation. And I remember when the Lord gave me that, because I wanted to be a lawyer. And I remember feeling that way, like, I didn't accomplish that. And one day the Lord said, but you defend my word. So it's perspective. It's perspective,
Yeah.
And I think about, Shamika, with your story, you think about, especially in our culture, we did not know how to take care of ourselves. Think about it. Even from just back in the day, when did we have time when we was in the field to think about our skin, or, to take a moment to woosah? So when you think about it, that's generational. How
it definitely is.
Right? That we just push through, keep going. And so through what you've experienced, you're bringing something to our community that we weren't even used to, that makes us a better person, a whole person. So it's bigger than so. It's a mindset. It's a perspective. It's a change in thinking. No, I'm worth that time. And then I think about Kara once again, parenting. Listen, we are parenting the next generation, and God knows what everything's going on. We need some healthy children with some problem-solving skills, some anointing. You know how you can allow God to intertwine being anointed and not only, you know, teaching your kids practical, but spiritual insights, because we need both. You know, sometimes we're too far over here, but God wants us to have balance. We have to be spiritual and we have to be practical. And one thing that I've heard a common theme, even with you, Tanya, is everybody had to invest in themselves. And that's what I'm hearing. Like, you're worth it. Whatever sphere it is, whatever God is calling you to, we have to be in a posture of being teachable and coachable. We can have the gifts, but the gifts is not alone will not take us where we need to be. We still have to have character. We still have to have integrity. We have to have business savvy. And I think that's a blessing that you have with Dr. Cheryl. The things that she's poured into you, having mentors. I think all of you have spoken about having individuals in your life, a support system. We can't do life alone. We can't.
Right.
We can't do our purpose alone. Tanya and I couldn't have a podcast without guests. So even your yes on today is helping to push what God has done for her. So I just want to say we applaud you. We applaud you.
Yes.
We love you. Your story matters and it's making a difference. Tanya?
Most definitely. I can't say it enough how honored I am to be a part of what I know is going to be a sisterhood going forward for the authors of this book. We just seem to be drawn to each other just from doing this process. And the message that I have from my chapter is really to not give up on you. And it's right along the line of saying yes. You have to, like Shamika so gracefully said, you have to say yes to yourself.
Yes.
Right. And ultimately you're saying yes to God. But I know from personal experience that there are days when you're going to get up and you don't want to be bothered with that 3-letter word. You don't feel like it. And, you know, I don't have children looking at me, but as the oldest, and if anybody else is the oldest of children, you have your siblings looking at you. You have a passed on parent looking down at you. There are eyes on you always. So there's times when the pain is too hard to see through, that you have to call on him so that 3-letter word is even close enough to touch.
Thank you, God.
So my message is, you know, to keep that connection, because for me, like Stacy said, you know, you got a diagnosis. I got a diagnosis too. I told the doctor she was a liar, and then I wanted no part of her medication plan. That I had another doctor, and talked to him about it.
Dr.
And
G.
Come on.
you know, and so I did. I went home and I spoke to him about it. I said, Father God, they want me to take this stuff, and they're probably right, but I need to talk to you about it first, because I don't want those lamps that make me feel like the sun is shining. If that's the case, I'll move away from this area and I'll move where the sun is shining, and I'll go do that. That's one pill that's gone. I'll do that. But I need to stay connected to you, because I'm not going to be the lady with those lamps on and 50 cats and sitting in the house until I'm not, that's not me. So I did a whole lot of praying. And I said, depression be gone in the name of Jesus. And I started walking every day,
Thank you, Lord.
rain or shine.
Yeah.
I made adjustments so that my yes was a little closer to my grasp.
Amen.
You know, and that's what I'm saying to everybody that's listening today, to people that'll hear this on replay. What you're looking at, what's in the room right now, is an example, even with my co-host Benicia, is an example of women that make a conscious decision every day to reach above, through, and around the pain that's very warm and comfortable sometimes, to get to their yes, to
Yeah.
say, I'm going to go regardless, because I can come back to feeling like myself again. I can be a conqueror. I can be a warrior. I can live the destiny and the purpose that God has for me. But if you're not connected to Him, if you're that equation doesn't work out.
Right.
And you know, I know I'm supposed to speak life into you, so consider that a fact. If you're not connected to Him, that equation is not going to work, because those days when you're feeling less than, He reminds you that He made you and you are capable of all things. And you can get around the pain and the no to say yes. You can be courageous to launch that daycare that you've always wanted. That Mary Kay that you say nobody's ever going to buy anything from me. You can do it. You can do that. You can do the film. You can become a box office hit like Stacey will be, right? She's on her way, right? You can help parents that feel less than, like Carol's doing. Help them to recognize what they can do to shape their children to be the future leaders of this country. Like Shanika's doing, to make women feel like they're supposed to feel.
Yeah.
So I know I'm going on and on, but the message that I want to make clear to you today from the courageous enough to launch authors is that we're just like you.
That's it.
We just said yes. And we know that you have it in you because you're from Him.
Yeah.
So I've said enough, Benicia. I'm gonna toss you to Mike or any of the ladies that would like to share something on as we close out. But again, I'm so honored to have you here and to be a part of what we have now as a family. More courageous enough to launch.
I just want to say thank you again to the ladies. This was amazing. Even in this, we had to come against adversity, but we're all here, and we don't focus on the adversity. We focus on the blessing of the stories and the encouragement and the inspiration that came today. Keep going is what I want to say. Keep going. There's more. You know, I think of Jeremiah 29:11. We don't know all the plans, but God knows the plans, and they're good. They're going to cause you to have an expected end, and they're going to prosper you. And it's not what it looks like. It's not what we feel. It's based on the promises. And God is a man that shall not lie. And so I say, keep going and be encouraged, stay connected. For our audience, please, please, please go and get the book. I cannot say enough. You know, I kind of use it as a devotion, you know, one every day, you know, something just to inspire you, because no matter where you find yourself in life, there is a story in this book that is going to speak to you in your situation. And because God has no respect of person, guess what? It could be you. So thank you, ladies. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. And I know this won't be the last time, but I was thoroughly, thoroughly blessed. And I'm sure our audience was by you today. Thank you.
Yes. And please, if you could go starting with Stacey, I'm putting your websites in the comment, but if you could share your handles with everybody so they can find you.
Sure. So thank you all so much. This has been very encouraging. It's always good to continue hearing positive messages. It can never get old. You can find information about the documentary at rodthedoc.com, and you can find us on all social media platforms at Rod the Doc.
Awesome.
rodthedoc.com.
Go follow her, you guys. Follow her.
Okay. First, Tanya and Benicia, thank you again for providing this forum for us. And Stacy and Shamika, I'm so thrilled to be on with you. And everyone that has tuned in, we appreciate your support. We hope that you got something from it. And you can learn more about the Parenting 411 on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. My handle there is the Parenting 411. I am Carol Maletta on LinkedIn and Carol T. Maletta on Facebook.
All right.
Awesome.
Follow Carol, guys.
Yes, please follow them all.
Oh, Shamika.
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay,
I'm
like I
putting
have to
all
hold her up too. Wait.
Yes.
So from the birthing of our book, I think I shared it with you guys before, but Daddy dropped in my spirit, stay courageous. Not just be courageous, but stay courageous as a reminder. So you guys can actually follow us on Instagram at Lena Mae's Soap Boutique. And then also Facebook, it's Lena Mae's Bath and Beauty Boutique. Sorry, too many, but it is what it is. Our website is also Lena Mae's Bath and Beauty Boutique.com. For those that are locally, we do have a boutique, well, an actual storefront in Alameda, California, but we're not open because of COVID. So we're going to keep it the way that it is, but we do have our online store and we ship all over. So, and also thank you for the platform. Thank you guys. Really, thank you.
You're welcome. Follow Shamika. Go get you some nice soaps and make yourself feel good. All of them are going to bring some type of element to your life that will be a blessing. This is a true sisterhood. You know, a lot of times as women, I've heard over and over again that, I don't have a lot of friends. Or it's hard to be, friends with, women. But we debunked that lie on today that we could be each other's cheerleader, confidant, friend. And so I'm just so glad that we have this type of platform to say, hey, we cheering you on. I want you to win. We want you to win. We do. So Tanya, back to you.
I want to share one thing with you guys before I go, because God works in mysterious ways, and he brought Coach Cheryl. I call her Coach Doc Cheryl. I have a couple of nicknames for her, but the reason that I ran back into her is because she came to an event and spoke during lunch. And I was in the audience and I was like, she looks familiar, because we were from the same area, but I moved down here. By the time she was done talking, I had already left my seat at the lunch table, and I was in the midst standing up somewhere because, she's fire. And I just want to invite every woman, if you have the opportunity, the event is called The Heart of a Woman. And I sat as I was listening to her and then getting up, and I said, you know what? I'm speaking at this event next year. I'm going to speak at this event next year. And I'm speaking at the event this year.
Come on.
Thank you. And I'm just so honored. I'm so honored to be a part of the Women's Business Center of Charlotte, because they poured into me since I've said yes and moved here. And I think that if you're not going to be in the room, it's a mistake. It's virtual. You can be in the room from anywhere, and the speakers are incredible. So please go to the website and register and join us. I'll be speaking on the second day, A Woman's Story of Courage. And I will be tipping my hat to my sisters from Courageous Enough to Launch, because that's what courage is all about, right? So we'll see you guys soon. Thanks again for joining us. And I will see you at the conference and see you next weekend.
Yes.
Take care again, ladies.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, ladies.
Bye-bye.
Thank you again.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.